Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Career Buzz Nonprofit Edition. We are going to give it just about 30 seconds to let everyone filter in the room, and then we will get started. Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Barber, and I am the Executive Director of your Sacramento State Alumni Association, and I'll be acting as your moderator today for Career Buzz Nonprofit Edition. Thank you for joining us for this speaker event that's focused on, as you might have guessed from the title, careers in the nonprofit sector. I'm honored to be here with a wonderful group of Sacramento State alumni, and I'm thrilled for all of you to hear from their diverse experiences and success stories. Career Buzz is an ongoing event that connects students and recent graduates with our diverse alumni network through Q&A discussions and an opportunity to virtually network. Today's event takes advantage of our strong alumni network, so we'll hear from our two successful alumni who have made a significant impact within our community and are volunteering today as part of a larger university goal to keep alumni engaged with each other and students. We're excited to showcase Erica and Austyn and hear directly from them about their experiences, but more importantly, for them to share advice with you. So let's get started. I'd like to welcome our panelists and invite each of them to introduce themselves, maybe share your name, your major, your degree, your class year, what your professional position is, your employer, and maybe throw in a fun fact just to keep things interesting. So I will invite Erica to jump in there.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And hi, everyone. Good to see you all here. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Erica Johnson, pronouns she, her, and I graduated in 2014 in communications with an emphasis in public relations. I'm currently the Associate Director of Brand Marketing at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, or I'll start to say AFSP. And my fun fact that I could think of in this moment was I just love going to the gym. You'll find me at the gym or doing some sort of movement workout as much as I can every single day.
I need to take that inspiration from you. Thank you for joining us, Erica. Austyn.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Austyn Perry. I graduated with an environmental studies degree in 2015, and I now serve as the Director of Leadership Development Programs at the California Coalition for Rural Housing, or CCRH. CCRH is essentially a mission-driven statewide advocacy organization, and our mission is to support an active and rural, thriving California that supports rural, tribal farm worker families and communities kind of throughout the state of California. We do policy, advocacy, training, technical assistance, and leadership development. And my specific role is that I run a statewide internship program where I connect college students to jobs and affordable housing development throughout the state. So it gives students a chance to get hands-on experience in the affordable housing industry and have real impact in communities. My fun fact is that since I studied environmental science, I thought I was going to do environmental conservation, and I was a soil scientist for a while. So I say that to say never feel a ton of pressure to stay in the same industry as your major, because you never know what will happen.
That is a great point. I meet many alumni from Sac State and other institutions, and it's more the exception than the rule that people professionally move away from their academic background. So good point. We are going to spend the next 30 to 40 minutes hearing from Erica and Austyn about their career journey. During that time, we won't be taking specific questions from the audience. However, we will use the last 10 to 15 minutes of our time to take questions from you through the Q&A feature. So typically that's located in your toolbar at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to populate it with questions as they come to mind. And when we get to the last 10 to 15 minutes, we will answer as many questions as possible. Just to head off, one of the first questions is usually, is this being recorded and will it be shared? And the answer is yes. We are recording and we will share. So, no pressure to be taking a million notes. You'll have an opportunity to revisit. All right. Well, let's jump in with our prepared questions and just to kind of warm up the room, let's start with an icebreaker. What was your first paying job, and what are some of the life lessons you learned from that job? Austyn, I'm going to have you go first.
So my first job was a lifeguard position when I was 15 years old. It was in the suburbs of the Sacramento area where I grew up in Citrus Heights. I actually ended up working there for like 6 straight summers after that, and I grew to be a senior pool manager. So I was hiring and training, and it was just a blast each summer. But I definitely learned like confidence, teamwork, but especially confidence. I was really shy then, and it was just really impactful for me to learn a skill such as lifeguarding and teaching other kids how to swim that made me feel more empowered, I suppose, as a very, very young teen. I also remember looking up to the other like kind of older kids and being inspired by their actions and modeling my own actions after them, and that's kind of what helped me become a leader later on in the other summers as a pool manager. So definitely taught me work ethic. But I'll pause there and pass it to Erica.
I love what you said because you can always be learning from others, but also to be mindful that others are watching you and learning from you. So I think that's just a
Right.
good paradigm for everyone to keep in mind. All right, Erica.
Kind of thought of this in two parts. Also thought of my very first job in high school or middle school. I started off as like a soccer referee and then was a barista at a coffee shop in the Bay Area. So just thinking about how I learned how to juggle multiple things at the same time while providing positive, smiling customer service, of course, when you're working in either of those two areas. And then I had thought about when I had graduated from Sacramento State, I had landed an internship that was paid and followed that with another like marketing PR agency in the area. And I only wanted to bring this up because one, I was actually let go from my first paying job because I had accidentally had the wrong phone number on a business card that I was overseeing that ended up getting printed. And I always just like to let everyone know that, those type of mistakes, even though it sucked in the moment and I was let go because of it, it made me become a much better copywriter and reviewer, which is really important in my current job where I'm reviewing copy and branding and consistency of our brand. So I had thought of that in kind of two parts for that question.
I love that. And you're right. You can learn from mistakes and hopefully it doesn't always result in having to find a new job. But the things you can learn from mistakes are almost as valuable as the things you can learn through training. So that's a great thing to keep in mind. And you also touched on customer service, which I don't think you can underscore enough how much customer service plays into so many professions. From barista and far beyond, something to always keep in mind that you're representing an organization when you're working professionally, and that customer service becomes part of that organization's reputation. Thank you for sharing that. Since we're here today giving some insight to students and recent grads, let's talk a little bit about what helped you along the way. And I'd like to ask each of you to share what was the best advice that anyone ever gave to you. Erica, you're prominent on my screen at the moment, so I'm going to just pass it back to you.
Well, one of the things I thought of was when actually was a photography major before I switched into communications PR. And one of the first things I heard was, if you're in the PR industry, you need to be part of PRSSA, or Public Relations Student Society of America. And I cannot like say how much getting involved in that organization as well as other organizations. I did the student alumni association as well. I was part of Greek Life with Alpha Chi Omega. I was part of a lot of different campus groups, and I was very lucky that I could be. But being able to network at such a young age or time of my career has helped me tremendously over the last 10, I guess 12 years now since being graduated. And so putting yourself out there, making connections, networking with others, you just don't know where those conversations and connections are going to lead you in the future. So I just really encourage all of you to get out there, pay that maybe $10 or $20 fee to get to a networking event. It's all an investment in yourself. And from my experience, it really, really paid off down the road. And my other is just to continue on with how you can fail forward, as John Maxwell said. He's a great leadership book author if you are looking for any books out there. But it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. And if I hadn't made different mistakes along the way, I wouldn't have also gotten to where I'm at today. So those are opportunities to learn and grow from. So don't be scared to make at least minor ones.
Thank you. And professional, your mentor who shared about getting involved with a professional organization, that's spot on. I encourage everybody to do that. If you feel like you don't have the networking skills to go meet new people, we at the Alumni Association, shameless plug, have a number of events and opportunities that can help you with that, including next week, we have a networking mocktail party where you can learn how to work a room and then walk into a room full of friendly alumni faces and practice your new skills. So I encourage everyone to, like Erica said, register for an event and take advantage of that. Austyn, how about you? What was the best advice you ever got?
My advice that I ever got was very similar, also on the networking thread. But it was really just to not be afraid to put yourself out there and to do cold outreach. Even if you've never met that person, you don't know anybody who knows them, like never be afraid to reach out. Me personally, I'm a big fan and such a huge proponent of LinkedIn. And I know that for college students, for younger folks, it can be kind of cringy, like, oh, LinkedIn, like, what is that app? But it seriously is super, super powerful. Outside of CCRH, I also am a co founder of a nonprofit, and I co founded that nonprofit by meeting a woman on LinkedIn. I just cold DM'd her in 2020 because I saw that we were in the same industry and I wanted to touch base. So, one of the things for students is that if you wanted to reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, people are really excited to talk about themselves. They really want to share. They really want to be a mentor. So if you say, hey, I'm interested in the kind of work that you do, are you interested in doing a virtual chat or a coffee with me? People are very, very willing to do that. And I especially encourage college students to, because they're not necessarily viewed as a competitor at that stage, right? So you come in as this like happy, innocent character and they say, oh yes. And you never know like who will take you up under their wing and pour their knowledge into you and how valuable that will be overall. So definitely take advantage of that openness from other folks.
That is great advice. And another shameless plug, if you are looking for not so cold of an outreach, we do have a Sac State Career Network online platform where we have about 1,400 alumni in that system that have volunteered to talk to students and recent grads and fellow alumni in exactly the ways that Austyn was talking about. So LinkedIn is a great way to find people, but if you're a little afraid, like, I don't want to ask out of the blue, start with Career Network, warm up, and then move into LinkedIn. But by all means, set up a LinkedIn profile. It's invaluable. All right. We're going to move into your current working environment and want to talk to you a little bit about when you are hiring within your organization. So, when you're hiring or serving on a hiring committee within your organization, what are some of the qualities? So, not necessarily skills, like do they know how to use Microsoft Word, but what are some of the qualities that you are looking for either in a resume or for a candidate to share in an interview? And Austyn, I see you nodding along, so you get to go first.
Awesome. Yeah, I do a lot of hiring, not only for the nonprofit as an institution, but also for our interns as they come in through our program. And typically, one of the things that I love about working at a nonprofit is that we're very mission driven and mission oriented. So we often seek people out who match that kind of vision, drive, that curiosity. So because of that, those are things that we look for. Even if somebody doesn't have a lot of experience either working at a nonprofit before, but they align with the mission in some way and can express that passion and that curiosity, that's really, really valuable for us. One of the things we always talk about is that skills can be taught. Like if you need to learn how to operate this spreadsheet and learn how to do budgeting, for example, we can train you on that, but we can't really train that emotional intelligence component, that ability to communicate with people who are like you and who are not like you. Those are things that are really valuable in our nonprofit environment. And sorry if you hear the construction going on outside the door.
Thank you, Austyn. That's great insight. Erica, how about you?
I agree with everything Austyn just mentioned. And I would also add on, I'm always looking for someone that has done research on our organization or even on ourselves, if possible. If you know who you are interviewing with, it's nice to be able to see if they have a company page with their information or a LinkedIn. But that just gives me knowledge that you really do care about the role and the job, and you're not just applying to things left and right, which is totally fine to do. But like Austyn said, we're really looking for someone that's, passionate about our mission, especially in suicide prevention. It's very emotional work sometimes. So making sure that this person understands the type of work that you're going to be around every day can be difficult at times, especially if you yourself are a loss survivor or someone that has lost someone to suicide. But it's nice when people ask either about, oh, I've seen you've been here for so many years. What's your favorite thing? Or, oh, I see the company has these core values. Can you share more about them? I think it just means a lot to us because in nonprofit world, we're already wearing a million different hats and never have enough time to get work done. So sometimes the interview process, although very important, can also be a damper on our work time, and it just makes it so much more pleasant when there's someone that equally is excited and cares about the mission. So whether that is through the interviewing process or in your cover letters or resumes, my mentor, Jack Fawn, who was actually on the Sac State Communications or University Comms team back in the day, he helped me create a lot of different types of resumes when I first started. I had like a skills-based resume, and then I eventually was able to expand to by position. So don't be scared to also have different resumes and cover letters for every job application. And I personally think it makes it stand out better when you are more personal in each of those rather than utilizing the same resume and cover letter for every single job you're applying for. And my only other note is if you have that LinkedIn, please keep it updated, especially as someone in the branding world of nonprofit. If you cannot keep your own brand of yourself, strong, how can I trust you to keep our brand strong at the same time? So if you do have a LinkedIn, try to keep it updated as much as you can.
Excellent point. Makes me think I need to go update my LinkedIn probably. And I love what you said about, getting to know the organizations you're applying to or interviewing with. We did an interview this morning and the person had read our bylaws, they had found our 990s and had just really great questions about who we are and what we do and our mission, which, really showed an investment. All right. Let's see, I got both of you on that question. So let's move on to work styles. I think you, Erica, mentioned that in a nonprofit, you're always wearing a lot of hats and there's never enough time to do everything. So can you share a little bit about successful work styles in the nonprofit environment? How do you set goals for yourself, both day to day and long term, to really make forward progress in your mission?
I believe time blocking on your calendar is invaluable, whether that is just for your lunch break, because sometimes I admit I don't take a lunch break because I just have so much to do. So I try my best to get a lunch break in for myself, but also to do other work that might just take time. It might not be hard work, but it's things that take time. So time blocking is really important for me and my team. And also, of course, a good old to-do list, whether it's on a paper or you keep it digitally, however you like to track that is also very helpful to have. Um, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is a national nonprofit, so my colleagues are all across the country. So I don't have anyone to meet up with in person to do any meetings. So we also track all of our like agendas and meeting notes all digitally. We have like SharePoint, Microsoft programs here. So that was really helpful because at first I'm like, I'm going to keep my own notes. And then I'm like, wait, why do that when I can keep notes for my entire team? And I'll highlight things that we need to do, or we'll tag people on things if they maybe weren't in the meeting. So utilizing whatever, digital platforms you have to integrate within your team and make sure they get the information, whether they're there or not, has also been really helpful for us that don't have the opportunity to meet in the office and work in person.
Those are great insights. Austyn, how about you? What do you find in your area as far
Yeah,
as work styles?
you're right. I'd say I totally agree with the time blocking and the to-do list. I live and breathe by both of those tools. I'd also say that kind of in the early stages of any job, you will quickly learn like how to prioritize those tasks, right? But I would also say that never be afraid to ask your supervisor how they prioritize tasks because it could help you realize how you which tasks need to come first and when, help you balance all the upcoming deadlines, as we all do wear a lot of hats in the nonprofit world. But sometimes, if you need to have that direct ask, I find that very useful. And that's something that I still do with my executive director every once in a while. It's like, hey, here are the 5 things that I'm thinking about that are all urgent. Which ones do you find most important? And how can we balance that, kind of meet in the middle? I also have kind of weekly goals that I work backwards from, right? So if I know that I'm going to have to host a training for my interns about affordable housing property management in late March, then okay, now that it's mid-February, what are the tasks that I need to do now to make that happen and kind of work backwards, which I'm sure is very similar to what college students are currently doing when you see your homework deadlines coming through. It can be very similar as far as balancing those to-dos. And then long term, I like to kind of think more broadly about what sort of leader I want to be, especially when it comes to working with the communities that we serve, right? And trying to set skills around or set goals around what skills that I need to hone on and improve, kind of outside of my day to day of like, oh, I have a big speaking engagement at a conference in September. What should I do during the summertime to prepare to help train my own personal skills? And I think that's also important when it comes to balancing your day to day, but also your own professional development.
And I'm going to extrapolate from what you just said. I think in the nonprofit world and probably any world, there's always ebbs and flows in how busy you are and kind of
Yeah.
using some of those lower points, to plan a conference presentation or something like that. Because when you get to that moment in time, you might be at a high point and not have time to prepare. So I think great insights. I love that you also mentioned asking questions of your supervisor. One of the best advice pieces I got early in my career was to learn how to manage up. And I think in managing up, you've got to know how your supervisor likes to work and kind of provide information in that format so that you get responses in the quickest way possible. And we could spend a whole hour on managing up, but just a concept, put it in ChatGPT, learn a little bit about managing up. All right. Let's move on to innovation. I think a lot of us think of innovation kind of in the tech industry space, but I think there's opportunities to innovate in every aspect of business. And I think all of us are seeing that with AI right now. So would love to hear from both of you. How have you seen innovation take hold and develop in the nonprofit space? Austyn, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'd say innovation is a big concept. So I could touch on lots of pieces, but I'll try to truncate that. Innovation is pretty essential, I'd say, in nonprofit work, especially with whatever the mission of the organization is, right? So for CCRH, we really focus on housing, equity, access, and all of those components are really complex and constantly changing. Our state government, for example, is always rolling out a different bill around housing policy, housing affordability, and it's our job to stay on top of that. I guess also put input to our legislature. So just making sure that we have the tools and are able to be as adaptable as possible in the workplace is really important. I will admit that as far as like innovative technology, the nonprofit industry, in my personal opinion, tends to be a little bit slow to adopt some of the technological tools, I guess, in the workplace. Sometimes that's because of budget constraints, or we're like, oh, like that's a $5,000 software that we'd have to use each year. We don't have the money for that sort of thing. But also, a lot of nonprofits have operated the same way for a long time. My nonprofit is 40 years old, right? So a lot of the things that we did 20 years ago are still the things that we advocate for today. And therefore, it's really, really refreshing to have new folks who have innovative ideas, especially around technology, AI, different tools to say, hey, I noticed that you all have been doing it this way for this X amount of years, but here's how we can make our system stronger, our internal operations stronger, our recruitment strategies stronger. And that's where we see a lot of innovation. I'd say for the internship program as well, we're innovating our curriculum and our operations to better fit younger and younger folks, right? Like each of the generations are different. The internship program back for Gen X and Boomers was very different operationally and in the curriculum than it is for our Gen Z folks and younger who are incredibly smart, have the internet at the tip of their fingers, and are really used to that technological and fast-paced learning environment. So we definitely want to innovate to make sure we're keeping up with the times, essentially.
Love that. Thank you. And you're spot on with sometimes budget can be an inhibitor to innovation, but yeah, I have found research all the avenues of how to accomplish something. You can usually find a workaround. But Erica, how about you? What do you see? You're a big national nonprofit. How does innovation unfold for you?
Yeah, this question I was like, oh gosh, what is like very innovative? Because like Austin mentioned, yeah, we don't have big budgets to be able to have some of those platforms. But collaboration is one of our core values at AFSP. And so in my role as Associate Director of Brand Marketing, we oversee almost all of the marketing, of course, materials, whether it's social media, copy for emails, things that our chapters use out in the field. We're collaborating with the national departments that, oversee those particular teams. And sometimes we also have to work with external partners, like we have an external design firm, a print and store vendor, etc. So we're also managing those relationships and understanding how their processes work. So being able to understand not only our individual departments within our organization, but our external partners is really important. And more lately, with my new supervisor, we've been setting a bit more like boundaries or rules, if you will, not only to help with the process and flow, but also, better set expectations for their team, for our team, for them, for myself. So our most innovative thing we use at AFSP is called Monday.com. It's a project management system. And we have automations that are set up through that. So when I complete one task, it might send out an email, so I don't have to send out the email. So there's just like little things like that we're starting to integrate right now as our marketing team is expanding at this time. That to me feels innovative because in the past it's not been like that, and it's been a bit more hands-on, which only takes more time when we don't have enough time. So just being able to I had never used a project management platform before until this role. So I'm just thinking back when I was actually fundraising for AFSP and managing volunteers and all these things. I'm like, oh, something like a Monday.com would have been so great versus my 5,000 million different Excel documents and Word docs and all the things that I was using to track otherwise. So yeah, we're slowly becoming more innovative with things at AFSP, but it's definitely still a work in progress for us.
Well, you're definitely not alone there. The education sector is struggling through the same things. We're currently looking at platforms that do things like When was the last time Erica came to an event? Let's invite Erica to this next event. And it's all happening with AI in the background. And, it's amazing to think about those innovations and dream about having the budget to do some of that. So thank you for sharing. Um, let's see. We want to hear from you now. You've shared the advice that you got from mentors along your journey, and you've talked a little bit about your working style, those sort of things. What would be the advice you would give someone today who's currently a student or maybe just graduated from Sacramento State if they're wanting to take that leap into the nonprofit sector? Erica?
I would recommend if you are going at least into the fundraising volunteer world, is to start volunteering yourself or start fundraising yourself. I think I got lucky. My first nonprofit role was with the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, now called Blood Cancers United, and it was admin work on our fundraising events. I love event planning and am the planner of all my friends' gatherings. So it was a perfect match. But I had applied to so many other different nonprofit roles, but I think I never really had a chance to get one because I never had truly fundraised before. So whether that's fundraising, like Give Sac State Day is coming up on March 3rd and 4th or 4th and 5th, forget what the email said. So whether it's, fundraising for Sac State or fundraising for your club, fundraising for your professional group, for something in the community, I think any experience you can show that you fundraise, you've done peer to peer, which means you're asking people individually for donations. Maybe you've set up a Facebook fundraiser, you've asked people for sponsorships. A lot of those opportunities that you'll do to support an organization you love will also help you down the road to answer the questions about fundraising and your experience. Because at least on the fundraising side, if you don't really have that experience, you most likely will not get the role. So do your philanthropy work within your organization. Sometimes there's a role or a leadership position on campus clubs where you can serve as that individual, or just volunteer for an organization like the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We're always looking for volunteers. We're very grassroots here. And actually at Sac State, there's an Out of the Darkness campus walk that we host every year that'll take place in April. So that's a great opportunity to fundraise too. But definitely having some sort of background fundraising experience or your own volunteering experience. I think if you're going into the realm of fundraising and volunteer development is going to give you one of the best opportunities on top of networking, of course, because sometimes some opportunities are not what you know, it's who you know. So I really encourage you to also lean into the networking side of things. And thanks for the clarity on the question. I had a different answer, and then you said, and to nonprofit, and I'm like, oh, I got to switch that up real quick. So,
Well, you did great. And I think you gave a really great example. I mean, if you are going into the nonprofit sector, profit sector, fundraising is going to be a piece, whether you're helping calculate, promote, or ask, there's going to be an element of fundraising. So I think that's a great example. And there are a lot of organizations like AFSP and even Sac State that you can get involved with as a volunteer and do some fundraising. Give Sac State Day is a great example. March 4th and 5th, you were right on. You can sign up as an ambassador and create your own unique giving link so that we can even share back with you later. We see that 30 people made a donation through your link. And so you can have real-time stats to share with a potential employer of the impact you were able to make. And so great advice, great advice. Austyn, how about you? What advice would you give?
Right. I don't have much more to add to that. Erica had a phenomenal answer. Honestly, I wish I had that advice when I was entering the nonprofit world about building your own experience with fundraising is such a great idea. That's so important. I came from, I worked in government before, I've worked in the private sector before, and it's only been my third or so year at CCRH where I'm at a nonprofit. And that fundraising piece was entirely new for me, right? So that's like a weak spot where I had to, as a director, learn that skill very, very quickly of how to reach out for funding, how to build those relationships. Almost like it's almost like investor relations, right? Your funder partners are long-term partners with the organization, and it's also your job to kind of upkeep those relationships and make sure that they are getting their needs met and you're also able to get the funding that you need to run your programming. So love that advice, Erica. I wish I had that advice as a college student interested in nonprofit work. I would just highlight that networking component. What did you say, Erica? It's not about what you know, but who you know. Totally agree with that. And it's also making sure that you're building genuine connections with folks so that you can lean on them later on. You will be so surprised of how I worked with somebody about 6 years ago, and now I work with them today, right? Like they're back in my circle, back in my industry. And I guess that kind of ties into making sure that you kind of upkeep and have good relationships with people. Like you don't want to burn bridges in the nonprofit industry because nonprofits know each other, talk to each other, especially in your kind of different niches and industries. I'm in the affordable housing sector. Everyone knows everyone. It's very, very small. So it's really important to make sure that you upkeep your reputation and make sure that your communication skills and your networking skills reflect yourself, but also the organization that you either represent or wish to represent. But other than that, I just would like to echo everything that Erica and Jennifer have already commented on.
Thank you, Austyn. All right, we are going to give all of you in the audience a chance to put your questions in the Q&A as I ask our last pre-formatted question. And it's a reflective self-reflection. What goal do you have, either professional or personal, that you're still, like that's the one, that's where I'm going? Austyn, you want to share one of the goals you're still chasing?
Yes, this was a little bit hard for me because I feel like I've kind of recently accomplished some of my big goals, which means that I haven't necessarily set other large ones, right? One of my goals many years ago was I wanted to be a director at a nonprofit, and I now am as of last January of 2025. So that's something I've accomplished and I'm excited about. I really wanted to serve Sacramento State as an alumni, and now I am a current member of the Sac State Alumni Association board, and that was a big goal of mine. So now that I have these two accomplishments, it means that I am focusing less on like kind of my career trajectory sort of goals and more of like what impact that I want to have. And right now, that impact is on folks who are younger than me. How can I continue to pour into the students at Sac State, to young professionals who are coming up in the industry behind me? And I want to continue expanding leadership pathways for my industry of affordable housing and community development. So, for folks who are interested, are curious about that industry at all, my shameless plug is find me on LinkedIn, Austyn Perry, and feel free to reach out, send me a DM, say, hey, I'm interested in learning more. I would love to have a virtual chat with you via Zoom. If you're curious, we are hiring for our internship program right now. We have 2 positions that we're hiring for in the Sacramento area. If you are interested in getting hands-on experience as a project manager in the affordable housing real estate development space. And if you don't even know what that is, that's okay. Check out our website, learn about it, ask me any questions that you may have. It's a really phenomenal opportunity, especially for juniors and seniors. So, but I'd say that that's what I'm looking at right now. But ask me in a couple years when I have my next big goals, Jennifer. Thank you.
Will do. I will. All right. Erica, how about you? What's your next big professional or personal goal?
That's so funny, Austyn, because I am kind of in the same boat. I had initial goal of wanting to move from doing fundraising that I had done for at least 8 years at that time into strictly communications marketing work. And I made that happen a couple years ago. So I'm pretty happy professionally where I'm at. And I've done a lot of volunteer roles, a lot of leadership roles. So I started to get a little bit burnt out. So I've actually taken some steps back of those, mostly in particular because personally, I'm hoping to want to get a house this year and I'm hoping to start a family next year. So those are truly my priorities that I'm trying to stay laser focused on right now is just some of those, yeah, more personal goals of mine as I've focused on professional career work for the last 12 years pretty intensely. So yeah, wish me luck that at least I can get a house this year. That'd be great.
Sending you all the good housing vibes. That's awesome. All right, on to the Q&A. We do have a couple of questions submitted. So we'll start at the top and work our way down. Either one of you, just feel free to unmute and speak up. What is one of the best ways to get into working at a nonprofit when having limited to no experience? And I know you both hit on that a little bit, but if there's more you would share.
Austyn, you want to go since I kind of, if you have anything to share, at least?
Yeah, I don't know. I read that question, and when I did, I was like, Erica's actively answering this right now. So that was a couple of minutes ago, and I just love your answer so much again about getting your own fundraising experience. That's a phenomenal option. Um, but I'd also say to not be afraid of looking at any experience that you may have. Maybe you volunteered for a club on campus, or maybe you had a specific either like a class project, the final presentation, or something that relates to the theme of the organization or the mission, that counts as experience too. Sometimes we'll get applicants that are like, hey, I'm very young, I don't have any work experience, but I took a class on real estate and community development and I learned these topics and that applies to what the day-to-day job could be in some way, like making those comparisons and making it clear in your cover letter that you do have some of that knowledge. I think it's also a really helpful way to get into a position when you have limited work experience.
I would just, oh, sorry, Jennifer.
You go.
I would just add to, yeah, look up opportunities to volunteer and things that you really enjoy. If you're limited on time, sometimes there's opportunities to just do those good old day of volunteer op days for their events or to help prep folders or stuff envelopes. You could always just reach out to a nonprofit. My sorority supports St. John's Program for Real Change, and we had an idea to like make some cards during an event last week. And I just reached out to St. John's and was like, "Hey, would you all like take some handcrafted cards by adult women?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure, we would love that." So you could be, fun and creative. It doesn't have to be maybe running the social media account or, leading a committee of some kind. It could always be small things. Just make sure you document it so you could always go back and say, I did XYZ things with these different organizations and the amount of time and maybe what you did for skills that you took away from it. But yeah, just reach out to a nonprofit if you're unsure of where to even get started with volunteering with them too.
I think that's great advice. We do another online workshop with the Career Center each semester, and that's one of the questions that comes up is, can I put volunteer experience on my resume? And the answer is yes. And there are some nonprofits looking for people to fill, specific roles for several hours a week, and that's a great way to get your foot in the door. It's also a great way to get to know professionals in that space that could be letters of reference or on your reference list down the road. So keep all of that in mind that, volunteer experience is still work experience. It's just typically unpaid. Um, all right, our next question. I'm graduating in May as an economics major, and I have a lot of freelance marketing experience. Do nonprofit organizations usually hire recent grads in entry-level marketing positions, and what do these positions usually look like? I feel this is right up your alley, Erica.
I had a feeling you would say that too.
I remember so many phases of your journey.
Yes, there are entry-level marketing positions, and I've only been in my role for like a year and a half, and I had someone under me, and then we had to let them go because of budgets. So I didn't get as much experience to be able to manage them as I would have liked. But a lot of the things that this individual had worked on was some of our day-to-day management of project movement. So again, we don't have an internal design team, so we have to send everything externally. So gathering the information, whether that's already in our form or in a kickoff meeting, and then being able to make that digestible for our design team to understand what the next steps are. They would create a timeline for the project. So the design rounds, the feedback rounds, when final files are delivered. So the day-to-day management was part of that individual's role. And then sometimes it was some of like the admin work, like adding to our afsp.org calendar, getting users uploaded into our asset manager system called Chapterland or a Google Drive, if you will. So they also help to support some of those very foundational and very important tasks that sometimes can go overlooked at a higher level, but are super important for just consistency and marketing across the organization. If you're looking for more like you are doing the marketing yourself, I would imagine that this person would be helping to create, the different assets for the marketing collateral, whether it's social media posts or maybe banner ads, email banners. So it's definitely going to depend how the nonprofit itself is set up, whether they do have their own internal design team or they might be more of like a project manager type marketing person. Because that's what I've learned is sometimes people think our team is like the one where we're creating all the assets. And at least at this moment, we are not that. And we have to have everything sent out to be put together for us, even though we do have some level of experience working in those different creative platforms. Our real marketing role is really getting a campaign together and overseeing the development of assets, but us ourselves are actually not the people creating it. So I would just make sure wherever you might be applying that it's what you are hoping to do. And it's funny because I told myself when I lost my position I mentioned at the very beginning, I was like, I don't ever want to do a role where I'm telling a design team what to do. And here I am again in a very similar role. So yeah, just make sure you're asking those questions on like what does the day-to-day look like to understand if it's the right marketing role or not.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Erica. Austyn, I don't know if there's anything you want to share on marketing. No. Okay. Um, I did want to point out for those of you online that my colleague has just put into the chat a couple of links on places you can find volunteer opportunities and what roles people might be seeking in the nonprofit world. So check those out. And our final question, I'm not sure we're well equipped to answer, but I will put it out there. And if either of you, oh, it looks like Austyn is. Okay. Are there suggestions on where to reach out for guidance on creating a nonprofit? So I'll go to Austyn.
Yes, okay. I saw this question and I was like, oh God, I'm getting like triggered by it. I have created a nonprofit. I built it with my co-founder and I think we went official in 2022, maybe 2021. So it's 4 years ago now. And honestly, I've just like pushed it in my mind because it could be very challenging, very daunting, but I have done it. So if you needed to reach out to me for specific advice or help, you're welcome to do so. But I would say, and I know this is going to sound kind of cliche and probably boilerplate, but ask ChatGPT what are the best practices for your state. And then there are like, there's a phrase like, oh, there's an app for that. There is software that can help you, like LegalZoom. There are other options that I swear to you, I've just compartmentalized because it was a lot to navigate. But you really want to make sure that you're checking in with your state for what your rules are. You also, before you even create the nonprofit, think about what the difference between having like a volunteer foundation versus a full 501c3 nonprofit would mean. Because don't forget that it'll be creating bylaws and having a board that's going to oversee that institution that you create. There are annual reporting requirements. There are IRS documentations that you need to fill out on an annual basis, right? And there's all these different nuances based on how much your budget is and how much money you brought in that year versus where you have to report and why. So I guess my only real recommendation is to do some searches on it, ask for people's advice who have done it before, but also don't be afraid early on to reach out to a lawyer and to reach out to an accountant. We did not do that in the very beginning, and it made it way more challenging. So getting that advice really early is my biggest advice for somebody who's really ready to take that next step to create their own 501(c)(3) entity. And that's all I'll say. But very exciting, and I wish I could ask whoever asked that question what they're interested in building, what they're thinking about. So congratulations and good luck to you.
Yeah, and I like your suggestion of, ping each other on LinkedIn if there are more questions that you'd like to ask. And thank you for sharing your experience, Austyn. I do agree. There's a lot more that goes into it than sometimes people realize. So a lot of legal filings and fun stuff like that. All right. Well, we don't have any more questions in the Q&A, so I am going to take that as a signal that people are ready to wrap up. I want to thank you, Austyn and Erica, for your amazing insight and advice. I've really appreciated the conversation, and I'm sure our guests have as well. So thank you. And thank you to everyone in the Zoom room for attending Career Buzz. Please stay connected with us, your alumni association. Erin has posted all sorts of links and ways to stay connected in the chat throughout the event. And we will probably give us a couple weeks because we'll have to find time for an intern to take care of it. We'll get this out to folks with the recording and some of the key links that were in the chat. So thank you so much and have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. Stingers up.
Thanks, everybody. Stingers up.
Thank you.